welcome back to the channel and to this, a book themed video once again, but this time covering Soul of the Gem again, instead taking a little breather from the Athelas content and giving some love to the other bits and bobs. I decided to look at this video because honestly it's trying to look at content for this and Coda Chivalry, which I can do without them being spoilers, which is a little bit difficult. But I decided to look at one that's a bit different, and it's a bit of a follow-up from the last Soul of the Gem video where I looked at how the powers work. And this is more the origin point of the powers and why these powers ended up happening in the first place. And I'm going to try and do this without spoiling things to come, which is going to be a bit interesting, but here we go. So, to look at where the origin point for the powers on Soul of the Gem come from, you have to look back in time to the sort of Middle Ages, medieval period, and I do want to establish that no, there is no crossover with Coda Chivalry. It would have been interesting, but it would have also led to some confusing points and elements, so no. The idea behind these powers were there was a collection of 100 individuals, warriors from all over the world, cultures, and all of these different things, who ended up coming together because they saw how the conflict was going. They saw cases of disease and famine and things, and all of the conflict and bloodshed and all the horrendous parts of conflict and invasions and conquests and all the rest of it, and they decided that they all came across the concept of this individual who supposedly had the ability to grant their bloodlines strength and powers moving on through the various generations and stuff like that, where they'd be able to effectively safeguard, not necessarily to the point of being able to repair the world, but they'd be able to safeguard their own bloodline and have this sort of focus, and their spirits would play a factor into it. It was loose in what they were told, but it was still enough to entice many of them. And they ended up all gathering, thinking that what they're going to have is going to be able to protect their bloodlines for generations onward through the descendants and stuff like that. And they were taught that their abilities were going to be bound to the various necklaces. Altogether there are 10 different kinds of necklaces that varied from the different sort of warriors that they were. Some who were better on horseback, some who were more trained with the bow, others who were close quarters, and all of these different varieties. And it came to the point where the process was going to start happening. This sort of mysterious wizardy figure was telling them that this would bound them, that this is a gift to them for them to be able to safeguard their own. Only behind the scenes he was aiming for it to basically work almost work in a similar way to an extent on how the Rings of Power were designed originally to function how they were all meant to become subservient to Sauron's will. He was able to use his ring to be able to bend them to their will. And because this wizard was using his own power to, and I will note that this wizard's name is Sabian, because he was able to utilize his magic in that within these spells to grant this power, this sort of strange, almost spirit-based immortality kind of strength to them. He was actually planning to create his own small immortal force that could go on and set all of his descendants up to become great powerful figures, and that he'd be able to effectively just conquer the world. And yes, it's a bit of a you've got magic and the blends here, and it's limited to 100, but he wanted to craft his own power base, and he figured having 100 figures who can survive the test of time and things like that would be a good way of doing that. Especially when you consider certain elements, like the only way these necklaces can actually be destroyed is by one of the other warriors. Like, there's no... At that time, there was nothing man-made that would be able to destroy them, and going throughout time, explosives, weapons, all of these things, nothing could be able to do it because of the magical protections they have. And it's almost in a sort of way that you'd end up actually withering away and destroying the spirit before you'd be able to destroy the necklace, if you specifically tried to destroy the necklace, because it's tied to the life force, and because of the way they're bounded and things, they effectively have two life forces bound to them, so they'll just take it in turns to be filled or to fill within the necklace. But the baseline principle of it is Sabian's spell went wrong and he was not able to gain control of them, but the spells worked in a different sense in that the warriors who were present got bound to those necklaces, but unfortunately the exact same thing happened to Sabian with his own. The spell went wrong and they all ended up bound to the necklaces there and then in some sort of messy sort of explosion, and many of them got scattered into the ocean and just spread out with the waves and the currents. So that was not intended, and it has purposely not been explained as to why that spell went wrong. But that is a very brief case of the origin points, but there are various characters throughout, and it will fall more into like Soul of the Gems world building, going through the, I guess, the family trees of the main characters and stuff. So Zoe, Owen, Gasper, and all of the rest of them, and you'll just be going through that and locating where and when each one of these necklaces fell into their own bloodline's possession, and how they first came across it, and all of these different things. But yeah, the magical element is pretty significant in this, because the whole purpose, or at least the warriors would like to believe that the purpose of it was meant to be pure. They were doing something that was going to allow them to protect and aid their descendants. And in the initial mindset, how many of them envisioned it was going to work was the spirit binding to it would be able to give certain protections or certain strengths. Only that's not how it went, because now, if you watch the powers video and everything, the spells, or not the spells, the necklaces hold the spirits of these warriors, and once one of their own bloodline is able to tap into it and actually form the proper bond with their long lost ancestor, they can effectively switch almost like host bodies, and the warrior comes out to properly face off, whilst the person ends up temporarily bound into the necklace. And it was that was Sabian's intention. His intention was to effectively enthrall whoever was currently wielding their family's necklace through the use of the spirit of the warrior that would already be corrupted and bound to his magic. And it also represents this sort of loophole where, or not loophole, but this sort of worrying aspect that because Sabian got bonded to his own necklace, which was one of a kind, so technically there is 101. His ancestors, if they're able to tap into his magic or his power and stuff, would effectively be able to, with the right spells and the right preparation, be able to enthrall and use any of the warriors and basically make the hosts unwitting or unwilling servants of them. So, and when you look more into detail about that, if you have, because it's almost like power through influence, it's not this massive army, but you've got these people from all sorts of different walks of life, and then they get led to believe that their bloodlines have these strong powers and things, but they could be anything. They could be students, they could be like high tier scientists, they could be in politicians or things like that. So they could be all over the place, and the ability to, or in some cases they could be more underhand like assassins or things like that, and their ability to just change around, commit to their work and stuff, but then be able to switch if they got into any sort of problematic situation. It would give whoever's Sabian's descendant at the time is not only the general powers of having those 100 warriors with this sort of aspect of immortality and magic to them, which makes conventional weaponry pretty flippin' useless against them, but he also can then turn around and use the influence of the people at the time. So you have, I don't know, just a case in point, and no, this is not one that's actually in the story. This is just an idea that I'm thinking off the top of my head. Have an expert lawyer who's particularly focused around like defense cases, but then gets hired by Sabian's descendant to help bail his friends out and everything, and then if something needs changing, he can just switch into this warrior with a great axe or something like that, and this warrior with a great axe who's effectively immune to things like modern firearms. So you have that, and I say modern firearms. Modern firearms are up to a point because I haven't gone so far into detail about what they can and cannot be utilized against. Like, if you had something with enough punch, it would have the ability of probably knocking them down, but it just wouldn't be able to kill them. And yeah, I do want to go into some more depths on some of the world building for this, but one of the challenges is that partly it's because I've been more busy recently with some other stuff, but the other element of it is that Soul is going to have its own world, sure, but it's also going to be, and I'm not going to reveal how yet, but it is going to be loosely connected to some other stories, and some of that needs to come through first before we can do certain things with Soul. So it's a part of it's stepping stone to a bigger scale project in some cases, but I am going to try and get some more Soul of the Gem content out, because I think I noted this before. In my initial plan for the stories I was going to write, it was one that was never on the list, and then it sort of came out of left field, and I really enjoyed writing it. And because in some ways it was quite different to a lot of the other stuff that I've done so far, which made it quite fun. So yeah, that was interesting. I'm trying to think if there's any other bits that I can list. You have the you have the 5 emblems on the cover there. You've got the deer, you've got the ancient helmet, you've got the lion, you've got the dragon, and then you've got the crowned eagle. There are 5 others. Sorry, I just hit the mic. There is, and I'm going to try and remember these off the top of my head without looking at the notes. There are the Fang. I want to say the Cobra. So that's 7. Why did I say I'm going to try and do this? Because I can't think. What are the other 3? One sec. But it was playing onto a bit of the historical fan aspect with that, like the different weapon classes. Like, they're all genuine. Like, none of them are like made up. Like, you're not gonna see a medieval knight walking around with a flamethrower or something like that. Okay. Yep, here we are. So, obviously, sorry I hit the mic again. Deer, crowned eagle, lion, dragon, and ancient helmet. Then you have the cobra, you have the fang, you have the horse, you have the 2 crossed axes, and then the last one that you have is trying to see is specifically a cobra head as well. Right, hang on, that's the wrong list. I will find this. It shall be found. Are they on here? Yep. Yep, and that's the other one, a smithing anvil. So, and I'm reading straight from the early plan notes here. So, but I know that they are still accurate because I didn't change that. So, with the exception of what Sabian's looks like, this is the 10 pendants. The lion, which is the basic, like, if you play like Medieval 2 or that, they get referred to as the sword and board. So it's like one-handed weapon and then a shield. So it's like the traditional thing you look at when a lot of people think about like heraldic knights and stuff. Then the dragon is simply two-handed weapons, and ideas from that is this guy Conrad Edwards. He is the warrior ancestor who's bound to Owen Edwards, one of the two main protagonists. As you can see, he's got like the two-handed halberd in there. And there are a couple of others who have things like that as well. Like, there is one character who's bonded to a part of a mercenary group that did genuinely exist, the White Company mercenary group, and there's two siblings there who play sort of secondary antagonists who have, and one of them has a similar style necklace to that. You've got the deer, which is ranged weapons. Zoe bound to, I want to say that's Richard Edwards, but I can't see the name I put there. And bow and arrow and stuff like that. So yes, that's same family and everything. Then you have I said about the lion, one weapon and shield. That's the sort of style that I believe. I'm not 100% sure. I believe that's what Gasper's character is bound to. Then you've got the Crowned Eagle, which is very similar to the lion, but instead of a sword and shield, it's a spear and shield. So, playing on those different, like I said, the different types. So you've got the swordsman, and then you've got the spearman. Then you've got one that's starting to be a bit kind of different. You've got, and it is almost symbolised by the fact that there are two weapons there, two crossed axes. Warriors with two weapons. Just one weapon in each hand. An axe and a sword, two axes, whatever. As long as it's not ranged, that's the only aspect. Then the Cobra Head. And the Cobra Head is, again, one that has a little bit of symbolism to it. Where you think about cobras, you think about snakes in general, their ability to like spit venom or strike or things like that, and is normally quick and sharp. Well, these are throwing weapons, but throwing weapons like javelins, jarrets, axes, knives, that sort of stuff. So they're very quick and... I don't know why I did the sound effect there. But that's the point. Then... yes, okay, the deer is a bit of mean symbolism with the ranged stuff. Horse is very, very obvious one, and it honestly it was one that I was very hesitant because I could have just made this a case where all the characters are grounded, but I thought no, some of them were more like this. So horse symbolises cavalry, simple as. So it's a bit of a rarity because the spirit is like the spirit of the ancestor as well as the horse, so that bit's a bit different, but kind of needed to involve that bit as well, I think. Then the smithing anvil, which plays similarity to the dragon, but instead of just two-handed weapons, is specifically blunt two-handed weapons. So the smithing anvil, you've got the anvil. Again, each one has some sort of process of symbolism. The anvil's there with anvils, with blacksmithing in that you hit a blunt object against them. You don't put like a sword or something when you're going to a blacksmith or something and hit it with an axe. You hit it with something with a blunt surface like a hammer. Mostly a hammer. Then you've got one that just played on my fun little historical case and everything, the ancient helmet phalanx. Oh, ancient helmet, but I specifically put in the notes phalanx, pole arms. Not specifically pikes, but pole arms in general, halberdiers, stuff like that. And I know that that's what Alp has as well, another one of the characters. I know that's kind of a little bit spoilery of the warriors themselves, but that stuff, it plays into the character development kind of, in just like what sort of style do they have, what kind of stuff. But in terms of story beats and stuff like that, it's not really that impactful. Or well, no, that's not true. It's not spoilering to the actual plot or the story. It's just the characters themselves. Then this last one, I still find quite amusing. A fang. Just a single fang to represent a single weapon. No shield, no protection, just a single weapon. And yeah, yeah, sorry this isn't as long as like some of the Avalas ones, but at the end of it, when you look at it, Souls had one book. It's got a lot of planning, but for now it's had one book. Avalas has had 3. So but yeah, the story beats are getting interesting, and yeah, some planning for the second Soul book has already been done, because that can play out to be quite important for things to come. But I am also trying to gear up to start doing some content on one of the other series that I've been very careful not to do anything on yet in terms of the channel. So even though it's had a lot of work put into it so far, but for now I think that's all I can really note. If I've done it correctly in the edit, there should be a text pop up that's talking about the factor that you can get Soul of the Gem on PayHip, on the new PayHip store. Please do check it out. It is there, it is available. I know I haven't been posting much about the PayHip store, but again, that's been lack of time more than anything. And you got the Ko-fi icon down in the bottom there. You can get it on Ko-fi as well. Both those stores, all of it goes to supporting all of this and making sure it can continue. And hopefully, I will note that Soul of the Gem is currently only limited to ebooks or digital, they're PDFs. Yeah, I haven't got around to doing actual print run of them yet. But yeah, I know it's a bit early to say, but Christmas is coming up, so I'm gonna start trying to plug the books more so, instead of just saying it's like, oh, check out the Ko-fi, check out the PayHip. No, these things are available on there, so genuinely do. And yeah, I don't think this video is probably going to be coming out probably the following evening, which will be the 29th, Friday. And because I've got to try and figure out what happened with that short and why that didn't come out properly. But the other video is also going to be book centric. That one's going to go back to being Avalas focused, so there'll be a couple of shorts as well in between. But yes, going to try to rebalance it out a bit more now. We've got no current playthroughs going on the channel, so on the gaming front it's going to be relatively limited to KGL content at the moment. But yeah, I'm starting to ramble, and I'm not going to keep you guys for any longer at the time. So yeah, please do check out the Payhip, please do check out the Ko-fi. There are also the other links in the description. You can check out the Philomine Books page, you can check out the creator group, the Instagram, the TikTok. The TikTok tends to be a bit more varied in the content, but it's still up there. The Twitch, I have gone back into being live this week, except after taking the breather last week. And currently, and I do need to post about this, currently the schedule is Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, and it's going to stay that way. I might toy around with the occasional Sunday one, but because of things that are coming up and starting this new job role and things like that, the Monday and the Wednesday are just going to be out of the question. It'll just there just won't be time. So yeah, I'm going to say have a very good, obviously aiming for this to be Friday, so have a very good weekend, guys, and yeah, be sure to check out the other stuff. Also, just a couple of quick shout outs before I go. The Fantasy and Sci-Fi Fanatic podcast, if you look back on the channel, the podcast I did with Daniel Kulba, do check his podcast out if you like creators and books and stuff like that, because it is brilliant. And over on the Twitch side of things, if you have been watching the Twitch and want to watch another one of the madness group of the KGL do some stream fun, check out Serben's channel, because he's on there. He does a lot of Assassin's Creed type stuff, so do check that out as well. I will put those links in the description as well. So anyway, welcome to the Kingdom of Athalas and the world of Philomine Books. Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you all for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed. And if you would like to see some similar content to this one, you can click there. Or if you would like to change around and have an explore of some of the other content, then you can check out the link below, which will be to a playlist. And if you would like to check out the content on other pages or socials, or if you would like to explore some of the other elements in detail, or pick up a book or whatever, or come and chat to me on Twitch when I'm alive, then down there. And as you can see, it has a list of what to expect on each of those platforms. And until next time, welcome to the Kingdom of Athalas, the world of Philomine Books. Please do like, please do subscribe, and if you want to, pop out a comment.